Something came from Baltimore, tomorrow. Something came from Baltimore, tomorrow.
Welcome to Something Came From Baltimore. I'm your host, Tom Gowker, and tonight, with a mesmerizing blend of soul spirit and sultriness, Vanessa Collier is a refreshing young saxophonist and vocalist, uniting traditional jazz music with elements of soul, blues, Latin, and funk music. Vanessa continues to attract wide and diverse audience with her fresh blend of genres. Vanessa believes that the soul is where all music originates and views music as a life journey of discovery that heals us, gives us peace, and magnifies the beauty of the world. Vanessa Collier is in demand. She's a young saxophonist and blues artist, and you can find her at 3 different locations within a 20-mile radius in the Baltimore area. One night she'll be in Annapolis. The next night she'll be in Columbia. The next night she'll be in D.C., all within a 20-mile radius and all sold out. Alrighty, so let's get into it. Sounds like this is going to be fun. Welcome to Something Came From Baltimore, Vanessa Collier.
Thank you.
Yeah, hey,
Thanks for having me.
Your blues is not young girl sounding blues. It's a kind of a deep, ethereal kind of calling where someone is, channeling something to you. And I'm curious as to where did you get the whole blues vibe? Was it back in Texas? And when did you decide to pick up the sax also?
They kind of went hand in hand. So I picked up saxophone in 4th grade, and I was kind of like picking up books and reading whatever I could get my hands on, honestly. Like, I didn't really practice my school music because I could basically sight read it, and I didn't really think about it at that time, but it wasn't like, I needed a challenge. So my mom bought me a bunch of books to read through, and I was just like voraciously sight reading stuff all the time. And that took me through 4th and 5th grade, and then 6th grade we started jazz band, and we started every jazz band class with a 12-bar blues, and that was like the highlight of my day when we did that. Because you got to you're given these set of notes, here's a blues scale, and just create something. You're given a blank canvas, and it's completely up to you what you want to do. And I just was I liked a lot of melodies, and so I was drawn to it and drawn to making new melodies. And then it was all in the music that I grew up with as well. I mean, we grew up with the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac, and Fleetwood Mac, of course, started as a blues band, right? And Aretha Franklin, Etta James. I mean, you name it. My family had a lot of roots in that, as well as country music, which really the only thing separating the early country music from the blues was really a race barrier. So, I just feel like it's in the roots of everything that we've listened to, everything that has become American music, funk and R&B and soul, and all that has its roots in blues. And I think that's why we're all drawn to all of these different genres and offshoots of it, is because it's truth music, and it speaks to your soul, and you don't always know why, and you don't always recognize it, but it's there, it's present, and it's affecting you in a great way.
When I listened to you initially, I was like, oh, she's just a young Susan Tedeschi-ish girl. But then at the same time, there's a little Shamika. Oh, there's a little Bonnie Raitt. And then I was like, I think her whole tone is really you, which is, I think that you've worked with the 4 albums that you've done. You've carved out your own personality, where I don't feel like I can say, oh, you're a Susan Tedeschi. I can explain to people, oh, if you like Susan Tedeschi, they'll like you. But I think that
sure.
I think you've already identified your own sound, that I basically say you're not copying anyone. You're real. You have your own vibe going on.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, everybody is a compilation of their own influences, and I know depending on how I sing stuff, I will sound like a younger Bonnie Raitt, or I've gotten that, right? Or, at times when we do the harder rock stuff, some Janis Joplin, I've gotten a lot of things on the road, and it's the highest compliment because they're always people that people like, they're drawn to. It's like, oh yeah, I remember this. I was at this concert and I saw this one, and it was it's been the highlight of my life. And it's always important to me to create an original voice, and that means that you're going to be drawing from the history and pulling influences from the past, and also trying to move the music forward and move the message forward as the world changes. You know, the social issues become what they are, and you just kind of want to be a voice, and hopefully like sort of a beacon of good and of hope and happiness and all those things in a world that might be a little bit more challenging for a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's the same with you. To be honest with you, you were just nominated for 2 awards for the 2019. You won one, which is the Instrumental of the Year for the sax, and you were up with a lot of great women on the Best Contemporary Blues Artist, and what an honor that is, just to be in that same category.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, I find that with the BMAs, it's really the honor is in being nominated. And at that point, it's like, man, if you're just put in the same ring as Shamika Copeland, you know, it's like, great. Like, what more could you ask for? You know what I mean? Just these powerful, especially the contemporary women, powerful women band leaders. Nicole was also another nominee this year. And so it was just awesome to be included in that. And then same thing in the horn category. Like Jimmy Carpenter is one of my favorite saxophone players, favorite people. Just enormous love for that guy. As well as Mindy Aber was also nominated this year. And I was so surprised because you're thrown in these categories with these people, and it's like, man, you don't know who's going to take it, you know? So I was just like, holy crap, I won.
That's
like,
a great feeling.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say now, you know? And I still don't. I'm still very speechless. But I just feel very honored.
There is 4 albums, I guess, in your catalog. And what I liked about that is that you are young, but you have a solid catalog. And what I mean by that is that you would come to your show and you get your originals and you could fill out an amazing set. But then you also have a lot of standards that you can pull up either in the blues and the R&B world. And you can fill out a show just amazingly. Not to bump around, but the Blues Caravan was with Big Daddy Wilson, and that was released in 2017. It's one of the most joyful blues albums I've ever heard. In other words, it's like there's a lot of spirit and bounce, and that's really refreshing because sometimes people are like, oh, blues, and you're like, listen to this, and you're like, no, wait a minute, the Caravan, it's exactly what it said. It's a really cool vibe, and it was from beginning to end. How did you get involved in that?
That tour was basically came about because for my second record, I signed on with this record label in Germany, and as part of doing that, he offered basically a 60 to 80 date tour overseas. And at that point, I was still building my career here. I am still. I say this as if it's in the past, but I'm still building my career here in the U.S. And I was like, you know, I would like to start building it also in Europe. You know, the 60 to 80 dates was kind of what drew me in to sign the record deal. It ended up being 51 dates in 9 countries overseas. Just phenomenal to meet Big Daddy Wilson. I mean, he is one of the most generous people, and he's also like comes from the Southern blues, which is all stuff that I like. You know, he's from North Carolina, and just, I mean, watching him night after night, like groove with the band, and you'll see like the audience will start, you know, a couple feet away from the stage, and by the end of his set, which we all had like 20-30 minute sets, you know, they're pushed up against the stage and like, you know, just grooving, moving with him, and trying to get in touch with an audience that doesn't speak your language, because we're often in places like Germany. A lot of them were taught English but don't really like speak it. They're more embarrassed to speak it, I think, and be wrong. Which I'm always like, well, I'm in your country. I should be speaking German. I should have learned something. You know, for me as a band leader, I'm also sort of the road manager at this point, and so to kind of get to go and do 50 dates overseas and not be the tour manager. And just go out and, like, I can go take a 2-mile hike before the sound check kind of thing, and nobody's worrying about where I am. it was freeing in that way as well. It gave me a little bit of a break. Then we did some other stuff. We did one of my favorites, "You're Gonna Make Me Cry."
That is crack up, because that's
Yeah.
my follow up. Is like the win was "You're Gonna Make Me Cry." I felt that was like a stellar move, a great song. You guys worked really well together. Why did you like it? Because I want to add it to the interview.
Well, that was one I brought to the table because I had done it with Joe Louis Walker, who I toured with while I was still in college. And it's an old Obi Wright song, and it sounds awesome if you have 3 vocalists or even 4 vocalists. So, because there's parts on it, so you can sing 3-part, 4-part harmony. And I thought it would be awesome to have like 3 awesome singers sing that song. And it's kind of like one of those bittersweet songs. It's like, you've broken my heart, right? And eventually I'm gonna leave. That's the end of the line. And I'm a sucker for great lyrics and great stories. And that one to me is just one that every time we play it, especially with Laura's solo on it, like I have trouble keeping it together when I sing it, because it's just such a powerful song, and lyrics, music wise, chordally, it's all there. It's a great song.
I agree with you.
Here we go. You gonna break my heart? Yes, you will. Yeah. You gonna break my heart? Oh, baby. Don't break my heart. Now listen one more time. Love is something people. It can make you scream. It can make you shout. Love is something people that the whole wide world ought to know about. Oh, baby. Oh, don't you make me cry. Yeah. I said, don't you make me cry.
Album that you have, the new one, which is Honey Up, you're still touring on it. It's just right around a year mark at this point. I wanted to talk just about 3 songs so people who are listening to the interview can get a taste of it. The first one, sure. we might as well see your sax in action. Love Me Like a Man, I'd like to play the sax solo so people can get an idea of what they can expect. But what a great song, and what a great little break in there with the solo.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was one we've been doing on the road for a while, and I had never put it on the record, and I kept getting people asking me, like, hey, do you have Love Me Like a Man? I really want that. I'm like, no, I don't have it on the record yet. Maybe we'll put it on the next one. So the new one, Honey Up, I did 9 original songs, and the 1 cover is Love Me Like a Man.
other ones that I liked was the single with Fault Line. I felt that was a big hit. How did that go about?
So that one I kind of had the line in my head. I actually have it on a voice memo from, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, something like that. And so I kind of just started writing lyrics to it, trying to figure out what the song could be, what that line might be, and what I was feeling at the time. And, I think the message behind this song is we're standing at the fault line. Like, what are we going to do now? We're seeing that the earth is starting to split. That's kind of the thought. It's like, oh, it's where the earthquakes happen. We're standing on that line. And I feel that from just like a sense that it's really difficult for us to have good conversations anymore without, really having to, people getting very defensive on either side. And it's very divisive to be that way, where I think we should be able to have a conversation and kind of meet in the middle and still have our differences and different opinions, but we still should be able to respect the person on the other side of the table for their opinion and what they're going to bring, and just listen with open ears, because I think we're going too far in the polar directions, and both points have some merit, and the real truth, I think, lies somewhere in the middle. So that's kind of that song. Is the fault line is just like trying to call attention to, hey, do you feel this? Like, where are we going to go from here?
There's another song. I actually had two, but I want to talk about Sweat Like a Pig.
Well, that one is sort of my tribute to my first big gig under my own name out of town. And we drove down from Pennsylvania and, getting there, and it's like 100+ degrees that day, like ridiculously hot, ridiculously humid. It's South Carolina in the middle of July. And, I'm up on stage and just, I'd sweat through my clothes before I even sing a note, and I said something up on stage like, man, I'm up here sweating like a pig, y'all. And this guy from the back, he goes, yeah, but you're singing like an angel. And it stuck with me for 3 years, that whole saying. I'd never heard it before, and it's a very, it's like a southern thing, but you don't hear it often. And when I was writing this new record, I wanted it to be, that's my New Orleans kind of blues. I like that stuff. The horn, the piano beat, piano kind of underlay kind of thing. And most of the tunes of the records are blues. They're just not Chicago or straight up shuffle blues. So this one, I wanted to be that kind of slanky, like you're sitting in the summer heat kind of thing. That's why the New Orleans comes in, because it's, that's the temperature and the weather in New Orleans. And so I just started writing, sat down at the piano and wrote this thing, and it ended up being Sweating Like a Pig, Singing Like an Angel. It's like one of the favorite songs of everybody on when we go out touring.
a lot of heroes now. You're out there. Is there anyone that you've met kind of just blew you away and that you couldn't believe that you met?
The first one was honestly Willie Nelson at my graduation. Like getting to play in the band behind him and behind Annie Lennox, like kind of just was incredible. I'm still speechless.
Wait a minute.
But then
you were playing with Willie and Annie Lennox together?
Yeah. So my Berkeley does this thing where they bring in 3 honorary doctorates. They give honorary doctorates to 3 artists every year. And the year that I graduated, it was Carole King, Annie Lennox, and Willie Nelson. And I don't think it gets much better than that. So, but Carole King did not perform, but Annie Lennox performed a song with us and a song or 2 with us, and Willie Nelson did the same. So I was in the band that was chosen among all the students at Berkeley to perform that music in sort of like a big band setting. So a couple keyboard players, a drummer, a percussionist, and a whole like 5 saxes, 5 trombones, 5 trumpets kind of set up. So we got to play behind them. And then afterwards, Willie Nelson was kind of like hanging around, taking pictures with everybody. And my mom grew up with Willie Nelson, so I was like, hey, can I get a picture? And he like put his arm around me and told me I was like awesome. And yeah, was like super impressed. And so for me, that's been a highlight. But I have met and talked to Buddy Guy several times, which is always cool. And Keb Mo is also one of my favorites. And I just got to talk with him at the last year's BMAs. And like, there's so many people that it's just like, it's an honor just to like be around them and kind of see how they move through life, see how they move through the crowd and deal with people. And if you get a chance to talk to them about music, then it's like otherworldly.
Yeah. How about that? Hard is it for you to create a team around you? You are band leader and you have, obviously you got challenges, and then you have getting your word out as a newer artist. And
I like to do a lot myself. So my social media is all me. I know a lot of people hire other people to do that because it is like, it's a whole other job, right? But that's all me. But I have a fantastic like radio promotion and just in general show promotion team now. Both of them have done a fantastic, Doug, because he set this up. But Rick Lusher is my radio promo guy, and both of them have done a fantastic job of getting the word out, getting my name in local papers, just that the show is coming up, like posting that. And I can't tell you, like we did this run last October where it was a completely new market in the Midwest. We had never been out there. And we were out there for like 24 shows over like 28 days or something. It was a crazy tour. Or 21 shows in 24 days. I can't exactly remember the number, but, it was a completely new market. No one had ever heard of me. And the number of people that came up and said, oh yeah, I saw your name in the paper. Then I looked you up on YouTube and I was like, I have to go, So that if Doug hadn't put those 2 cents in, put those things in the paper and whatnot, a lot of people would not show up, would not come to the show, wouldn't know who I am, and wouldn't be like begging me to come back. You know what I mean? So I do have a lot of people on my side. My manager is incredible, dealing with so many things, and helping me to kind of plan the tours and being the intermediary between my booking agency and me, and just making sure all the logistics happen, that on the back end, the booking agency pays me what they owe me. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things. I have been building a band and I've gone through different variations of people. And largely that's what happens when you get great people, is that they're busy. Laura is, I grab her when I can, but her primary gig is with Nikki Hill. So when they have time off, I'm like, hey, you want to come play? We've got these dates, blah, 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 blah. And she comes and plays when she can, which I'm very thankful for. The other guy that's been with me for 4 years, basically 4 of the 5 years I've been doing this, is Nick Stevens, and he's my drummer, and he's been on every single gig for 4 years. And it just takes time to find the right people that understand that, like, you know, I'm shouldering a lot being an independent artist, and the people that can go out on the road and realize that it's not really like a bummer if you have to wake up at 9 and get on the road. Like, that's part of the gig, you know? So not making life harder, they actually make it easier for you. It's hard to find people like that because the road is such a tough thing to do. I mean, really, you're away from home for a couple weeks at a time. You don't have everything that you're used to. You don't eat the way you're used to, or sleep the way you're used to. So I understand it's a very difficult thing, and it takes a very special person and a special bond to sign on and to kind of like be a good I want to say compatriots, but that's not what I'm talking about. Companions is the word I'm looking for on the road. You know, it's 10% about being a great musician, and the rest of it is like being a good musician. I mean, a good person and a good person to travel with. So I've been very thankful to find a lot of good people around me. I just found a great bassist, CC Ellis. He's from Kansas City, who's going to be touring with us this summer. And again, another great keys player, William Gorman, who's from Syracuse, but in New Jersey area at the moment. So I'm very grateful to the team that I have around me, and you know, they deserve all the kudos.
My last question is just, what have you learned in a short period of time?
The first thing I've learned is how much I love this, because you can't go at the pace that we're going and not love it. You know, you would peter out too soon. So I knew that I loved it, but now that I'm doing my own thing, it's like this extra love is added in. And I've also really learned how to stand up for what I believe. In the beginning, I think you're kind of a little hesitant if you're around musicians that have more knowledge than you, or you think that they have more knowledge than you. You know, you're kind of like, oh, okay, that's not quite what I had in my head, but I'll go with that. Like, that's cool too. Which I still do a fair amount of that. It's not like my way or the highway, you know, but I have a strong vision, and I've now kind of learned how to bring that to life and bring that on the record and to the live show, and not apologize for being a strong person, you know, and having strong opinions and all that. And I think that has been incredible to kind of feel and emerge with, is just that confidence of like, we can have different opinions and still make two very different but great records, and great shows. You know, everybody has their own thing, and that's like most of what I like is part of my personality. So just realizing that, and I've mostly learned to put the right people around me as well, and to notice when it's not the right fit, and be able to let go of that. So I think it's a very positive thing, just to be a strong person, to learn and continue to learn, to know that that's never going to end. You will always have more to learn from anyone that's around you. There is always something I can take from the people that I surround myself with.
I guess that's really liberating too, where you feel like you're not holding in that, not a resentment, but that like, oh, I wish I would have. Like, that's gone. So
yeah,
then you can move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop the learning process or the creative process. So good job.
Yeah.
That's a great lesson to learn. Vanessa, Thank you very much for joining me on Something Came from Baltimore.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
The men that I've been seeing lately got their soul up on a shelf. They could never love me, 'cause they can't even love themselves. I said, I need someone to love me. Baby, 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 I need someone who understands. I find a man who could take me home instead of always for a ride. I need someone to love me. Baby, 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 I think that you can, yes. Just don't put yourself above me. And love me like a man, yes. Come on, Sparky.
Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, 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 Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore.